Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural divine heirs. Today is August the 25th, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar and 1443 on the ancient sun calendar and 2022 on the Greco-Roman calendar. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. This is a sovereign, living, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American court action. We are the sovereign, living justice in capitis diminution nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. All Moors are the original indigenous, sovereign, ancient, Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original indigenous, natural divine, sovereign, ancient empire state for Morocco, the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government, Washington Ancient District for Columbia, the Universal Moorish American Consulate, and the Article 3 Moorish American Consular Court. Today we are executing the law by our sovereign capacity, which is the original indigenous, natural divine, sovereign, ancient Article 3, living United States District 4 Columbia Liquidation Court, and we are the sovereign fiduciaries, receivers, secured creditors, executors, trustees, ministers, claimants, and beneficiaries in this concluding cause for action. We are peace, we are one nation, we are one state, one empire, and one God. We hereby accept our sovereign ascension, issue a state and federal creditors' bill for possession against all judgment debtors, and exercise all sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time, nunc-pro-tunc. So we have been talking about capitalism and the letters and how the lettering had been changed and how we needed to change everything. You know, anything that we see, we must publish it in order for it to be valid. Well, I was looking through, doing some study, and I found where, besides Dum Diversa, our Grand Sheikh Taj Tariq Bey talks about Dum Diversa. When you look at Dum Diversa was one of the first instances where the edicts and the laws that we put out were hypothecated and subrogated and reprinted and republished by corpses. That's what Dum Diversa is. That diversus is two verses. That means there's two things going on. There's that forked tongue of the serpent, where when we would publish something and put a law out there, the corpses would take it and put it in black ink and capital letters and pretend to be us. But then they would change it and take, you know, for example, if we said, you know, all of those doing merchant business and commerce are going to be taxed. Well, they would take that and divert by their language the taxes to them. That's what Dum Diversa is. Dum Diversa is really what it says, is they dumbed down what we said. And because there were some who did not know about capitalism, they didn't know that everything was being reprinted and that the people who showed up at the door to take things was not us. It was frauds. It was foreigners. It was occupiers doing military actions. So Dum Diversa is a quote unquote papal, or was a papal bull. And then what they did was they came here, because Dum Diversa was issued at England territory, or England corporate rather, and then they came here to Massachusetts corporate, not on the land but corporate, and they issued something called the very same thing. It's the very same principle, but it was initially called the Massachusetts Government Act. That's what it was. It was an act. And it was done May 20th, 1774. Here, I'll put this link in the chat so that you all can see this and look it up. Because this is further proof that it was that all of the hypothecation came in the lettering, the letters. So and so I wanted us to take a quick look at this because we have about 9 things that we're going to put together in order to have all of this come together, basically, in terms of why we're doing the things that we're doing and how we do it. So let's take a look at this. So that we can, and all we have to look at is I'm just going to cherry pick a few things out of it so that we can see where the hypothecation came in at. So this act that's on the screen is where the corpse is doing business as the crown, or that we're doing business as the crown previously, because that's all in the past. We got it. We got this. Put something out. It says Great Britain Parliament, the Massachusetts Government Act, May 20th, 1774. Now look carefully at the date, because we know what happened in 1776. There were some corpses that were pretending to be government, that were pretending to declare independence from this Great Britain. And it says, an act for the better regulating the government of the province of the Massachusetts Bay in New England. Now, you can see the play on words there. Massachusetts Bay is the Moors. Massachusetts Bay is the Moors. And of course, they're playing with the words and spelling it a little differently. It starts with a capital letter and it ended with a capital letter. And then they spelled Bay, B-A-Y, instead of B-E-Y. That's not a place. That's actually a people. And then they said that the Massachusetts Bays are in New England, which was not true. It says, whereas by these letters patent under the Great Seal of England, made in the 3rd year. Now we can actually just stop right there. Okay, but let's keep going. By the letters, because this is them claiming the lettering. By the letters patent, and they're claiming that there's a patent on the lettering, and that's what they're claiming. So then everything that uses those letters, and that whenever they put something out using their letters, whoever accepts that is under their authority. Okay, so this is not anything new that we're talking about. Capitalism is not new. It's been done many times. It says, so whoever is writing it, whoever is writing whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is, whoever it is that's writing it is the author of it, therefore making themselves the authority. And whenever it's passed out, whoever they give it to, if they say, okay, this is good, I agree with this, then in the case of citizens, they're putting themselves under that. Okay, now where sovereigns are concerned, we can agree on things all day and never be under anything because we're sovereign. And there's full disclosure when we put things out. But when people put things out and they say, by these letters patent under the Great Seal of England, all the citizens are like, yes, this is protection for us, let's get under this. Not realizing that that is a form of incorporation. Okay? And so what it says here, it says, whereas by these letters patent under the Great Seal of England made in the 3rd year of the reign of their late majesties, King William and Queen Mary. That means they were already gone off the scene, but somebody's still putting things out. It says, for uniting, erecting, and incorporating the several colonies, territories, and tracts of land therein mentioned into one real province by the name of their majesties, province of the Massachusetts Bay in New England, whereby it was, amongst other things, ordained and established. Okay, and we could go on and on with this. As you read through this, you will see where whenever they put the word majesties, they put majestias, and they capitalize the A at the end. So they were claiming, okay, and if people don't know how to read, when they see things like this, they'll be like, oh, this is really good. This is straight from the king and the queen, you know. And they'll think that whatever it says, if it says taxes, if it says we can snatch children or whatever, then they get scared and say, oh, no, there's been an edict sent out and we have to obey it. No, that's not the case with the sovereigns. So we want to continue to bring this letters patent piece forward because all of the land patents say the same thing. So what do? We take anything that we see like this and we republish it ourselves. And we say, okay, whatever this did right here, we're doing it. And it applies to us, the sovereigns, in as much as we assent to it because we wrote it and we read it and we're the ones making the rules here and making the laws. So now remember, Morris, this was written May 20th, 1774, supposedly. But I began to look through this document, and I went all the way down here to the bottom, and look what it says here. Because, see, what they did was they did the same thing that we've done. We put constitutions and charters on the public record, talking about our courts and our land and all of this. And it says here at the bottom, and be it further enacted by the authority aforesaid that if any action shall be brought against any sheriff for what he shall do in execution or by virtue of this act, he may plead the general issue and give the special matter in evidence, and if a verdict shall be found for him, he shall recover treble costs. Treble means 3. So now this, in going through this, it talked about trials and courts and judges and justices and sheriffs and things like that. This was corpses putting something on the public record, claiming some land, and then supposedly setting up courts and all of that on land that does not even belong to them. It's our land. And if no one had rebutted that, then there it was. Okay, so we rebut all corpses. Anything that is not written by us, we rebut it on the public record into perpetuity, non pro tunc. We We govern us. No one else does that. And we govern us together. There is no king and no queen over the Moors. Never has been and never will be. Never has been and never will be. We don't need a king. We don't need a queen. We don't need all of that. We are all sovereign and we govern accordingly. So I wanted to point this out because now that we have put our constitutions and we've put our charters on the public record, and for example, we put the King County Charter on the public record, and King County goes as far as we say it goes until we put another county charter on the record. Any charter, any county areas or territories that don't have a charter per se, the King County Charter or whatever charter has been put on a public record nearest there covers that land. So, for example, if you're at Maryland Territory, if if some of the counties around, let's say Baltimore Territory, don't have a charter, then if one of you has put the Baltimore County Charter on the record, then all the other charters other counties go by that charter until those counties are chartered by Moors. So that none of the land is left unchartered. So I wanted to point this out because, again, like we were saying before the meeting started, we are the law on our land. So foreign sheriffs are not, that has nothing to do with our land. And I will say this, anything that we have seen on the computers, on the quote-unquote news, on the internet, all of that, none of them are talking to us or about us. Because except those that we say are talking to and about us. For example, our teachers, they're at the same jurisdiction that we're at. But all of that other stuff, none of them, they're not talking about us. When they talk about, whatever they talk about, mandates and, rules and code statutes and what they call, quote unquote, laws and legal and la, 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 none of that has anything to do with us. We have our own land. We are the law on our land. And everything that has to do with us, we put it on the public record. No one else speaks for us. Do we watch and see what they're doing so that we kind of have something that we can talk about and say, okay, you know what, we'll adopt that into our, into what we're doing, But aside from that, no one tells us what to do. They just give opinions on the public record and all of that, and then we decide what goes on the public record for us and how we choose to govern the land. Having said that, we are our sheriffs. We are our police. We are our governors, mayors, law enforcement. We're all of that. We're our entertainment. We're our NFL. If you like to play football, we're all of that. We're our own everything and everyone. We're our own banks. We're our own mint. We're everything for ourselves. Having said that, I wanted to put a statement on the public record. It's a court action on the public record, and this is something that I'm putting it on the public record for me, but it's something for you all to look at, because I was noticing, for example, I see the transition taking place. We can all see this transition taking place where things have transitioned already and transferred from the corpses and then from the custodians, and the corpses never had anything, so we went on ahead and sent them to Guantanamo Bay. And then there's custodians that were doing things previously, and things have transferred from the custodians to us. The corpses and the custodians were looking very similar. we had to know that there were three entities, and actually two entities and a being that were speaking and saying and doing things, but only one can speak at the time, and that's us. So there was a corpse. I'll just give this as an example. There was a corpse. Let me put this in black. There was a corpse that was running around in a corporation pretending to speak and do things that was put on paper by the United States Corporation Company and pretending to be my person, because I have a person with something that looks similar to that. Okay, so this is the corpse that we did a court action on and decapitated it and sent that thing to the grave. So this one is dead. Okay, and then that left the subject. Okay, there were some custodians that were previously doing things, and those custodians, we just said, okay, you don't have to do anything for my person. This is my person, and my person is not in brackets. This is my person. This person right here is an instrument by which credits and things can come into my hands. Okay, it's a tool. It's a living, natural person. This one is a dead black corpse. Okay, so now we have talked about the dead black corpse and done away with the dead black corpse, and then by way of our fiduciary document and declaring our nationality, we have said, okay, this is our living natural person. This corpse right here, this black one, belonged to Caesar. And we could go a little bit further with that too. So that is how things were being taken, okay, from the heirs, is by way of this black dead corpse. So we said, okay, we're going to get rid of that thing. And we're going to do a court action, and we're going to decapitate it and remove it from office, because we never had a relationship with that thing. It was pretending. Okay, so then we did away with that, and then we said, okay, when we do away with something, we put the living in its place always. We never leave a space empty. Okay, because if you leave it empty, previously, if you had left it empty, the dead corpse would come back and bring 7 of their friends, all worse than before. So in that clean, new space, we put our living natural person. Well, this is the part where Moors have been knowing that they have an estate, but getting a little bit confused about how to access the estate, because the corpses made it look like this black thing was getting some benefits, when really this black thing was really stealing. This was a thief. So we caught the thief. We know who the thief was, okay? And we said, okay, let's get the thief into the court and decapitate him. Death sentence. And it was dead already. It was dead from the beginning because it came from the dead. And that's why you kept seeing zombie movies. That's what the zombie movies were all about. They were trying to say, look, we got a bunch of dead things walking around. Somebody's going to have to do something, cut the head off or shoot that thing in the head and get rid of it so that the living people will be safe. So now, what the action that I want to do is this. For Article 3 probate court, because see, when someone dies, okay, when someone dies, there is insurance policies that come to them or that should be coming to them. We have a right to all of that, but we don't want to get it under the black codes, because under the black codes, there is no benefits. You want to have your living person, and this is the thing about the living person, the living natural person. I have one of my sisters transitioned in 2015. She did not know who she was, and I was not awake to tell her in 2015. We were all asleep then. In my family, we were all asleep then. But she still has a living natural person that can still speak, or not speak, but have a fiduciary to get things, as if she were here. As if she were here. So whenever you hear about, like in the past, you would hear about people, for example, veterans who would pass away and their heirs would be paid for the rest of their lives, and, so on and so forth. And then that stopped because they started taking and taking and taking and taking. We can go ahead and declare the death of the all caps name. We can do that. Declare that this thing is dead. Because, see, it was dead already, but nobody declared it dead. And then make it so that our living natural person gets the benefits, and the benefits are not subject to taxation by the dead. Okay? And again, these two are not the same. We have to know that they're not the same. This is our person. This person is a state, a living natural person by way of our sovereign state. Our sovereign state uses this person to get whatever they want to get, and the same goes for everyone who are the original indigenous heirs and the state. The state can use a living natural person to move benefits around and do things and do commerce and merchant and mercantile business. Okay. So I want to do this on the public record because I've been looking through, and there was a question that was asked in our last meeting. One of the empresses was discussing about how her heirs, her grand heirs, were due an insurance, something from an insurance company regarding a debt. Not a debt, but an insurance claim. So what we do is a court action, and this is what the court action says. It says, for Article 3 probate court, because see, our court must probate everything that has to do with our estate happens in our probate court. And then we notify the inferior courts, the constitutionally inferior courts that we've leaned, we notify them. And we say notice to agent is notice to principal, notice to principal is notice to agent. This has already been ruled on. And enforcement is in full effect for all. So if anyone files anything and tries to recoup something that does not belong to them in these inferior courts, there will already be a higher court ruling on the public record, the highest court, actually. So for Article 3 probate court, mercantile, commercial, and all other purposes, I hereby rule the judgment debtor, Pauline Denise Ritchie, and I'll explain the judgment debtor term shortly, a United States corporation company made fiction, officially dead on the record, for the record, and letting the record show that this black thing created by them is officially dead. The cause of death is decapitation by living, Article 3, United States Government Court Action Proclamation, performed by the living United States on August 3rd, 1968, nunc pro tunc. So we're ruling now for then, for when the fraudulent birth certificate was created. This court does hereby issue a creditor's bill for possession, and I'll put this link in the chat also because it's important that we take a look at this link. It says, all property, benefits, insurance awards, lawsuit awards, and all others are hereby transferred directly to, accepted by, and received by the living judgment creditor, Pauline Denise Ritchie. Okay, and this is in capitis diminutio minima. First letter capitalized, the rest of the letters lowercase. Okay, this is a ward of the state, and it's really a ward for the state. It's an instrument. And the state has complete control over this ward right here. And who is the state? We are. It says the state does also hereby garnish 100% of the Veterans Administration benefits as part and parcel of this judgment in the favor of the living judgment creditor. Homegoing celebration for the dead and celebration for the transfer of wealth to the living begins now. Okay, so yes, we celebrate the death and the official recognition and acknowledgement and court judgment of the death of Pauline Denise Ritchie, a United States corporation company made fiction. Okay, because it was a fiction, a dead fiction from the very beginning. Officially dead on the public record, letting the public record show. So now, let's take a look at creditor's bill for possession, because this has everything to do with bankruptcy, and as you know, we're liquidating. Okay, and so let me put this in the chat so that you can see it. Yes, it is an instrument. All letters, anything with letters is an instrument. We're the gods, and so, you know, anything that we use in order to move things around on our vast estate in this dimension is an instrument, whether it be a written instrument, which they all are. Once we write them, there are instruments. Let's take a look at these codes. And again, when we look at codes and statutes, we make it so that if we choose, that code and statute can be elevated to the law for the whole land, no matter which state it's in, it was generated in. Okay. And when we say which, no matter which state, we're talking about living states. So let's take a look at this part. Okay. It says equitable and certain other assets. It says when a judgment debtor, and a judgment debtor is one who has been declared a debtor by a court, and a court for equity. Okay, so it can't be a municipal court, it can't be a an inferior court. It has to be a court for equity, which we are. It says when a judgment debtor does not have sufficient personal or real property subject to levy on execution to satisfy the judgment. And again, this is the same, this is what we've been saying all along about our fiduciary duty. Okay? When a judgment debtor does not have sufficient personal or real property subject to levy on execution to satisfy the judgment, any equitable interest which he has in real estate as mortgager, mortgagee, or otherwise, and again, we know mortgages are fraud. So now we're just talking about fixing the language on this and making it uncorruptible and elevating it so that it does what we intend for it to do. Any equitable interest which he has in real estate as mortgager, mortgagee, or otherwise, or any interest he has in banking, turnpike, bridge, or other joint stock company, or in a money contract claim or chose in action due or to become due to him, or in a judgment or order or money, goods, or effects which he has in the possession of any person or body politic or corporate shall be subject to the payment of the judgment by action. Now, let me clarify that any benefits that come by way of the proclamation that we just proclaimed, it's not coming from this dead black corpse, because this corpse had no benefits. Okay? It's coming from a living, from and to a living natural person. So from whoever it is, for example, the Veterans Administration was issuing things. Okay? It's coming to the living natural person, and this is all about living natural persons. That's why we went ahead and just declared this corpse dead on the public record, and we will be putting on the public record and sending to all interested parties, and also notifying all of our offices that thing is dead, that the fiction is dead, and that the living natural person is the beneficiary. And then that living natural person is governed by the fiduciaries, the state fiduciaries, who are collecting everything that has to do with the credit. Okay? So it's our fiduciary duty to do the same thing we did with the United States Corporation Company. We issued a death certificate, and now we're collecting from the estate. We're saying, okay, that thing is dead, so we are collecting everything from our own estate by way of our fiduciary duty to govern. And then same thing for the living natural person. The living natural person can receive whatever needs to be received, and it goes through our state. Because, see, when you do probate actions go through the state court, and in our case, it's the living state court. And the state then says, okay, there's a distribution due. And then the fiduciary issues the distribution, which is what we just did. We said, okay, all benefits are being tributed to the living natural person and the judgment creditor. Okay? So, as we look at these types of actions in this liquidation process, this is just another liquidation action. Okay, it's just another way to liquidate that which already belongs to us. And again, any equitable interest which he has in real estate as a mortgager, mortgagee, or otherwise, it doesn't say anything about debt. It says any equitable interest in. So you're not accepting a mortgage. You're accepting equitable interest in real estate. Okay? It says as mortgager, mortgagee, or otherwise. When we elevate things like this, we take all of that corrupt language out. And we say equitable. Equitable means that you're the creditor and you have something coming to you, whereas mortgages are something. So, and again, when they write these things, they write them with some corruption in them. We just pull the corruption out and say, okay, we know we're not co-debtors with them. So we just make sure that we take that corrupt language out and pull all the benefits and say, okay, we're the beneficiaries, we're the creditors, and we're the fiduciaries, and we're liquidating, and everything belongs to us. Okay. So for those who, for example, before you woke up, you got into a mortgage situation, this is some information that you can use, and you can use your court, which is you, to execute this type of lawful action in your favor. Okay? And so we're putting this on the public record right now. And as part of the homegoing celebration for the dead, we're glad that the dead is gone, and celebrating the transfer of wealth. The transfer of wealth has everything to do with us being fully mature heirs. Galatians, the 4th chapter, in the ancient Moabite version of the Biblios Heliotext, which some call the Bible, it says, what I'm saying is that as long as an heir is a child, she is treated no different than a slave, although she owns the whole estate. And this is, when we say she, you can say he for the sons. It says the heir is subject to guardians and trustees until the time set by her mother. So also, when we were children, we were in slavery until the elemental spiritual forces of under the elemental spiritual forces of the world. And we, again, were never under anything or anyone. As children, there were guardians and trustees. And we're saying now we don't need guardians and trustees. We are guardians and trustees. So we proclaim by this sovereign court that we are not under any forces nor anything, but that we overstand all. This is our justice, our ruling, our verdict, our law, and our sentence. Other links regarding judgment, creditor, rights, abilities, and benefits. This is another one here. And again, this is still more of the same of what we've been doing, is proclaiming by and at law, because we're the law, our sovereign rights. Because see, as we go through these things that we're going through today, we're going to show you how we actually go and physically collect. Okay? And I will say that it is not for, I won't say that it's not. I'm going to speak in the positive. The way that we go and collect is for all who are ready and willing to do so. And it's an orderly, lawful process on our land that all Moors can do. And we're going to do it. So we're putting it on the public record today, how it's going to be done and all of that. So now I went to this, as we're Googling and doing our research and all of that, we go through and we find things. It says, what is a judgment debt? It says judgment debts are debts that have been reviewed by a judge in a court of law and found to be valid. So when we talked about the judgment debtor being the dead one, that is our court stating that the debt belongs to the dead one, and we issue a death certificate. When we sent all of those dead documents to the inferior courts notifying them that that person is dead, they just took that and did an inventory list of all the property that dead debtor had, and then they sent it back for further probate. That's what the lower courts do. So they're really more like a secretary or an administrative, assistant. Okay, and again, that's a constitutionally inferior lower court. So we're not giving anybody any titles. It says the judge rules in favor of the creditor or lender. And remember, creditors are lenders. In the Biblios Heliotech, it talks about in the last days, the lender will be, the borrower will be the lender, and so on and so forth. We're in our proper place as the creditor or lender. And orders the debtor to pay the amount specified by the court to the winner of the lawsuit. Okay, and again, we're doing that all along the way. While a bad debt judgment of this type does further limit the ways by which a debtor can settle his or her debt, there is still a few strategies to deal with judgment debt without having to appear before the judge for a second time. And I'll tell you that debtors, especially dead ones, and all debtors, debt is a dead instrument, okay? So debt and dead mean the same thing. That's why Moors don't have debt. It says, so we'll talk about how they appear before us. Moors, let's talk about that right now, because when we first started doing court actions, okay, and this is so important to me because I was, when I first started doing court actions, we would do court actions on corpses, and we had people saying, well, or persons saying, well, nobody showed up to your court. Nobody's showing up. Nobody's showing up. When is the dead supposed to show up? Because we were talking about corpses. We were putting the corpses in their place because no one else could do that. We were essentially doing, and not even essentially, but at law, we were the coroner. At law, we were the medical examiner. We declared them dead and then said, okay. And that was after decapitating them. Okay, so the court actions that we've been doing all along the way have been absolutely in alignment with what we're seeing here, where the creditor can now step forth and start collecting and doing things. It says, often when a judgment debt is rendered, the judge hearing the case will also specify the different strategies that the creditor can use to collect on the debt. And again, we're talking about creditors, we're talking about fiduciaries, and our fiduciary duties. It says, the action often grants the right of the creditor to initiate garnishment of the wages of the debtor with a percentage of the debtor's net pay withheld by the employer and forwarded either to the court or directly to the creditor. So what we just did was take 100% of the benefits, the credits, and said, okay, the living judgment creditor can have those credits. They were belonging to Pauline Ritchie in all capital letters, who is actually our state person that we own. Those belong to her anyway. So the state is taking them and tributing them to her. It says a second possible way to collect on a judgment debt involves the imposition of a lien. And Moors, again, this is when people were talking about liens and saying that the liens don't work. Yes, they do. They absolutely do work. But our ancestors wanted us to do it. Demonstrate that it works based on the law, not on opinions, not on anything that we saw previously, but on the law. It says, in this scenario, the court allows the creditor to obtain a lien against some form of real property that is owned by the debtor, such as a vehicle or a house. Depending on, and now they're using not lawful terms, but legal terms. So we know that we are both lawful and legal. Okay? So now again, Moors, we're talking about conveyances and domiciles and things like that. We have what we need thus far. We have to keep doing what we're doing. And we'll talk some more about actually initiating the collection of those and the possession of that. It says, depending on the circumstances surrounding the debt, the judge may require that the property be sold and the judgment debt retired using the proceeds from the sale. The judgment debt retired using the proceeds from the sale. That's something that we have to look into as well. It says the imposition of a levy is also a possible means of settling a judgment debt. Here, with a levy, the judgment creditor has the right to seize cash from different deposit accounts held by the debtor as a means of settling the outstanding debt. And when we talk about cash, we have to look that up because we are definitely not talking about fiat. So whatever we seize, we only seize that which is lawful. And if there's anything that is not lawful, such as fiat, we do a currency exchange on the fiat because it's not real. We burn the fiat and then we say, okay, we're going to issue fiduciary money, and the fiduciary money will be honored based on what we're doing. So even with regard, because remember, Moors, we've been saying that, you know, they never paid us in gold and silver. They never paid us. They couldn't pay us. The VA Medical Center and the Veterans Administration, for those who've been in the military previously, they had no gold-backed lawful money to pay anyone. So they've just been issuing credits according to the creditor and then saying, okay, one of these days the creditor is going to wake up and issue their own fiduciary money, gold back, because it comes from them. And here we are. And so when we seize something, seizure looks just like what this court just issued with regard to Pauline Ritchie. That was a seizing of assets. Because remember, the domiciles don't go anywhere. You don't pick the domicile up and move it to wherever else to seize it. You seize it. All of the seizures have happened on paper. And then we enforce that. So we'll talk about that shortly. It says the action can be conducted without any prior notice to the debtor as long as the proper legal documents are presented to the bank or other financial institution where the accounts are established. Now, we can use this at any time, and that's what we're looking at, is looking at it and then implementing and demonstrating it. So, yes, we're demonstrating the seizure of cash by issuing fiduciary money. We've already seized all the cash at all the banks and all the gold. We've already seized it. It's already done. Now we just have to use what we have. And then here it says, it is important to note that once a judgment debt is granted, that does not mean that collection processes will begin immediately. A judgment of this type normally allows the creditor a time frame in which to begin the collection process. If necessary, the creditor can apply for an extension to this time frame. And again, we're both the creditor and the court. For this reason, a debtor should take action immediately after the judgment is granted and attempt to work out terms of repayment with the creditor. Where repayment is concerned, we don't accept fiat, so we don't have to have a repayment plan. What we're doing is we're just going ahead and moving forward with fiduciary duties because the debtors are all dead. The debtors are all dead. They're all dead. So they can't sell things and do this and do that and do the other. We don't even acknowledge or recognize any attempts at that, and we see a huge halt in a lot of that. So, and it's for this very reason. Once we declare them dead, that's it. And we did that on the public record. So it says this move can prevent the need for more legal action and also allow the debtor to begin rebuilding his or her damaged credit. No. And again, this was written by corpses and corporations. So that's why we take the corruption out of it, and we cherry pick what we want to put in and what we want to make the law so that it benefits the estate, because that's what the empire is all about, is everything to our benefit and to the benefit of the creditors, to the benefit of the beneficiaries. So now there is another one, another quick, let's take a quick look at this Delaware, because this is important to note as well with regard to our rights as the creditors and the fiduciaries and the court and all of that. And as we move through this particular court action, you will see where collection and actually moving into the domiciles and things, how we're going to do that. So this is, it says, let's just read further, because this is not really a probate court. We're the probate court. But let's just read, because they put this here to teach us how to govern. It says, as relates to the probate court, this is an action by which a creditor holding a judgment seeks to subject an interest of a judgment debtor to the payment of the creditor's existing judgment. In other words, how do the creditors get paid for the judgment that we're holding? Because we have it already. It says the essential elements that must be shown are that the creditor has a valid judgment against the judgment debtor, okay? And they're saying that the judgment debtor is an heir or beneficiary. They were a phony, fake heir or beneficiary because they're a debtor. They never were an heir or a beneficiary. It says a distribution is due or is to become due the judgment debtor, and the judgment debtor does not have sufficient assets to satisfy the judgment. It says before a distribution is made, the only way for a creditor to reach an heir's or beneficiary's interest is through a creditor's bill. And again, these corpses were pretending to be the heirs and the beneficiaries. And sometimes when Moors will go to try and collect what they know is rightfully theirs, they would run into a quote-unquote legal person who would say, no, you can't have it. So now we're saying, okay, lawfully, we know who we are. We're the state, we're the government, we're the law, we're the courts, we're the probate courts, we're also the heirs, the creditors, the beneficiaries, etc. And all persons are, number one, debtors. Okay, all United States Corporation Company created persons are debtors. Number two, they're all dead. So there's your depopulation, by the way. And number three, the fiduciaries have a responsibility to prove that we're the creditors by what we issue from our court. So it says before a distribution is made, the only way for a creditor to reach an heir's or beneficiary's interest is through a creditor's bill. After the fiduciary has made the distribution is in the hands of the heir and is subject to garnishment. Now, what we did here with this, because see, they're mixing and mincing the living, let's just go back to Pauline Ritchie, they're mixing these two together. The living natural person and the dead black corpse. The language that they're using here does not make the distinction between who's who. Pauline Ritchie is the heir and the creditor. This corpse was the one previously claiming the benefit. So it is our job as the court to clarify who is the creditor, who is the heir, and who's not, because they're a corpse in corpse status. That's why our court is here. And that is another reason, one of the main reasons why it was so important for us to get our courts going. Because our courts actually are the only courts that can declare someone to be a living heir. Why? Because the dead cannot declare anyone living, period. So therefore, they can't declare that someone is a beneficiary or an heir or a creditor. They can't declare any of that because they're debtors too. Debtors are mute in creditors' court and courts for equity. So it says before a distribution is made, the only way for a creditor to reach an heir's or beneficiary's interest is through a creditor's bill. After the fiduciary has made the distribution is in the hands of the heir and is subject to garnishment. So then they start talking about filing motions and things like that. Now, we can look at what they're talking about here, but again, we can file a motion in our own court, but we don't file a motion in any inferior courts. We just give them our ruling and say, here you go, put this on your record. We don't even file it with them. We just say, put this on your record. Notice to agent is notice to principal. Notice to principal is notice to agent. So a creditor's bill for possession is, that's what creditors' bills are for. Okay, they're bills for possession. We must issue them. So even if let's say a quote unquote insurance company is saying, hey, you're the heir and beneficiary, so we want to cut you this check. The documents that they give, you actually have to put all of that on an affidavit and say this is the law, and you're the one who's issuing the judgment. Because all documents that come from them, from their perspective, it's a court action. And that's why whenever they say, oh, we issued this, and then they run and tell a fake judge, and the fake judge says, okay, they issued that, so you have to pay. Well, that means that they were pretending to do a court action until the real court speaks. So we're the ones who set the laws, for anything that has to do with our estate. Okay. So we wanted to bring that up. Number two, I just wanted to bring out the fact that no one listens to a poor man. So that means that everyone should be listening to the Moors. That's number one. That's first and foremost, because everyone knows who we are. So therefore, we must continue to uncover and manifest our wealth in our ancient system. Then others will hear us. So this is for those who say, well, my family doesn't really listen to more science. They don't believe anything I say. They will believe you when you manifest your wealth. And that's what this is all about. Okay, is the manifestation of all that belongs to us in this dimension. Their truth center will then need to be adjusted to know truth when they hear it, so that they know that wealth only comes from truth first. What we're saying is absolutely the truth. We all know that. All Moors know that Moors are who we say we are. Those who don't hear it, we need not worry about them not hearing it, because ultimately they will. Okay? And even once they hear or they see you in a new conveyance or a new domicile, they are still going to have to go through their tests. So please know that that's truth. Because man knows not by being told. Wealth is upheld by the truth of who we are. They have to know who they are, and they won't know if let's say, once we move into possession of the domiciles, which we're already in possession of them, we just have to know it. Once we are actually in the domiciles, okay, it can be the biggest domicile ever, and you can invite everyone to come and domicile there. But they still have to know who they are. They still have to know who they are. Still. Why? Because if something happens, they have to know who to call and who not to contract with, you know. And we're going to make it clear how to do that as well, because they're going to know, because we're going to know, okay? How not to recontract. Testing adjusts our truth center, and that's why testing is so important, is because, again, man knows not by being told. It's through our test that we know who we are. So for those who are afraid of testing, just take it a step at a time. Just take it a step at a time. Demonstrate who you are at the level of your overstanding, and you'll be able to handle whatever comes your way. Okay? Because that's what we did. We just took it a test at a time, a step at a time, and now we know without, you know, without doubt or contradiction, we know exactly who we are. And so wealth without the adjustment would in the past, and I'll take this out because that's a little bit of a spell. Wealth with the adjustment, okay, of testing makes it so that all of us keep what we have and continue to gain. This is our time to gain all the wealth that we've ever seen and known for ourselves. That's why the testing is so important, is so that once you get what you have, you keep it. And testing generally starts with wherever you are, no matter where you are, no matter what your conditions are, that you start demonstrating right where you are. You don't have to wait until you get a big domicile to demonstrate. You can demonstrate right where you are by stating who you are, and then beginning to demonstrate, you know, what you know to demonstrate. Okay? And the more you demonstrate right where you are, the more you'll see yourself rising above where you are into the things that you see for yourself. And you'll be ready for the domiciles and conveyances and all of that. You'll be ready for all of that. So this is a choice that all will make continuously until they decide and know that it is not a choice anymore, but it is the law for us to be ourselves. Okay? Ecclesiastes, the 9th chapter, verse 16 says, "Then said I, wisdom is better than strength. Nevertheless, the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard." Shalom means peace, but shalom means to restore more than was stolen and to restore better than was stolen. And that's what testing does, is it makes it so that your words are heard. When you free yourself, others will hear what you have to say. That goes for all of us. Okay? Shalom is another way to say Islam. Shalom it means to restore more than what was stolen and to restore it even better. That's where we are right now. So we can say Shalom and Islam and still be right where we need to be. So for those more who, with regard to restoration, and some call it reparations, but it's not reparations. We repair ourselves and we restore ourselves So for those Moors who are interested in minting coins for yourselves, here is how to acquire the gold once you proclaimed your nationality on the public record. And again, we talked about this previously, but I want to make sure that we put it out there again. To mine our gold, we simply put sulfuric acid in the ore, which causes everything else to disintegrate, and only the gold remains. And then you can use that to begin minting your own coins. For those who are interested in that, okay? 99% of the mountains on our land are ore. In one way or another, they're ore. Different degrees of ore, okay? And that's a little bit of Moorish alchemy. Now, on a different note, but in the same vein, did you know that the word, and this is something I found out that completely just, I can't say it blew my mind because I shouldn't be surprised, but did you know that the word Allah is in the Biblioheliotheque approximately 638 times, but was translated out by the foreigners? 638 times minimum. We should have known that Allah would be in there because we wrote the original Biblios. Biblios, Bible, means book. So here's the proof of that. I'm going to put this link in the chat, and these links will be under this video at Light to Jure Bay channel. But let's go to this link because I wanted to show you this really quickly. And this is actually done by a yes, Islam in the chat. Allah was around long before the word God, God. Yes, that is absolutely true. This is on the screen. Allah, and look how they wrote Allah. That's how it's written. Right here over on this side. And these are forms of the word Allah. The Greek transliteration is Allah. The simplified transliteration is Allah. The dictionary, the Hebrew dictionary and the Greek dictionary spell it like that. Allah. And the numbers for the word Allah in Strong's Concordance, the number is 235. So for those who study gematria, that number will resonate with you because all words have a number associated with that word. The Greek number is 247. And 247, of course, equals 13. And Strong's number equals 10, which is really number 1. Frequency in the New Testament is 638. Morphology of biblical Greek tag is a particle, so that's the form of the word that they use. And again, when they translate based on a very limited knowledge. And according to them, the definition is of Allah means but still more, or unless, or except, or at all events, which they're just saying the all. Allah means the all. Okay. In the Christian world, and again, we love Christians. We're not mad at them. We love Christians. In the Christian world, they have a saying that they'll talk about something like, I was in a car accident, but God. But God. All they're saying is Allah. And these are their writings. This is not something we made up. This is their writings. And according to this definition, that's what they're saying. That means there's still more to what's being said. And then it also means at all events. Okay, so it says Allah also serves to introduce a sentence with keenness and emphasis. That means it's more precision. And then they give some scriptures. Matthew, the 4th chapter, verse 4. But he replied, man does not live by bread alone, but Allah, on every word that comes from the mouth of God. I did not know that. So I learned something new in my studies this week. And then they give a whole bunch of others. It says, but I say to you, do not resist the evildoer, but Allah, whoever slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other as well. Okay? And then it says, Matthew, the 6th chapter, verse 13, and do not bring us into temptation, but Allah deliver us from the evil one. Okay. And then, let's see. Yeah. So these are just some, and you can look through these scriptures. These are all the scriptures that mention, or some of the, well, yeah, because it goes all the way to, there's like 600 and something pages where the word Allah is in the bibliotheliotech. It says, but Allah, God, this is 2 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 6. But Allah, God, who encourages the downcast, encouraged us with the arrival of Titus. So, just some information that I found interesting in my studies. We should have known. We should have known that it was there because we wrote the original bibliotheliotech. But we also know that the one that we've been seeing was translated by those with inferior language. Okay, their language is inferior to the meanings and to who we are. That is why they cannot tell our story, and they were under oath not to tell our story. We must tell it because we can choose the right words, because we pull from all the languages. Even in the introduction to all of our calls, we say, we're using different languages. We're using ancient English, we're using Latin, sometimes we use French, sometimes we use Turkish, sometimes, Arabic. It just depends on what our intention is, okay? And so we want to, I just wanted to point that out because it's important that we know that all that we've been seeing is not what we were told. No, not once did I ever hear anyone say that Allah was in the Bible. But I've always heard them say, Alleluia. Alleluia. And so we know that, again, we wrote the original bibliotheliotech, so Allah should be all throughout the book. We should have expected that. That's what I was just saying to myself the whole time is, like, you should have known. You should have known. So, on another note, completely different note, we were doing a little study, looking through some things, and the ancestors threw something up on the screen there. So a couple of years back, the former custodian previously in the office of president that was doing business as Donald Trump mentioned something about a space force. As being another branch of the military. So their newest, let's see, because it's not theirs, it's ours. Clearly it's ours. I just wanted to show you the logo for Space Force Delta 18, 8 plus 1 is 9. so they're using more science. And this is what the logo looks like, and they just introduced this logo. They just introduced this logo on the, when was this? I believe it was July the 6th, I believe it was. Somewhere around there. But I wanted to, this logo is all about us, all about where we are and where we're going. And this logo, if you go to the link where this logo is found, inscripted or inscribed in this same logo that you're looking at here, there's 2 sevens and a circle. And you can't really see it on the screen here, but they're there. In the upper left-hand corner, there's a 7. In the middle, there's a circle. And then under the word delta, in very thin writing, there's another 7. Okay? So they even paid homage to the circle 7 with this logo. And then in the movie, in this vignette. Now remember, this is another branch of our military. Okay, but in the vignette, it mentioned the word nobility, and you know, it gave a few. It stated a few things that have to do with them paying homage to us. And I wouldn't say paying homage because this is not even theirs. It belongs to us. Again, all logos belong to the Moors because the U.S. Trademark and Patent Office has been leaned, and as it is our fiduciary duty to do with these logos and things what we choose to do with them. So they went on ahead out in front of their jobs and did this. I would encourage you to take a look at the video. It's about 1.5 minutes or something like that, maybe 2 minutes, I guess. I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly. It was a really short video. And I'll put the link in the chat so that you can watch the video that introduces this logo. They have other logos as well. Just one moment. And again, you know, all logos belong to the Moors. So this is specifically for us and for our benefit. We are the beneficiaries. And we'll be doing some things in the future with regard to the Space Force and Space Command, etc. And in reality, all this is saying is, Moors, you have dominion over all. That's all it's saying. So the link to that is in the chat for those who are here at the meeting. And then we'll put the link under the video for those who could not attend today. Again, listen, when we say that they know who we are, they know. They've always known. There's a date in that same little photo that you'll only be able to see it when you go look at the video. It's the number of the video is 07061978, I believe it is. That is a date. So this logo and this thing has been around since 1978. July the 6th, 1978 is when this was introduced, but they put it on the public record in June of this year. because of where everything where everything is, where we are. So the subjects and the former custodians are doing all that they're supposed to do, and we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. So let's keep moving forward. Just wanted to share that with you. There are some other links that I can put that I'll put in the chat as well. Other related links and documents, just for those who may want to do a little research or little study on this and what it really means. I'll put that in the chat here. These links I will not put under the video because it's just, it's a lot of links. And that's not really the point of this meeting, but I wanted to pass it on to those who are here. With that being said, another little fact. So a quick question. What is another word at law for the mass that is the people? And a hint of that is foreign subjects speaking in code called it mob rule. Mob rule is something that when the foreigners came here, it used to scare them very, very badly. Why? Because this mass of people was us. And whatever it is we wanted and stated on our land was the law. So they called it mob rule. Okay? It's not mob rule. It is, as it is today, the people, we the people, are the government. But there is a word for that. And this is this word that I'm about to show you on the screen is a word that has been misused, misconstrued, and misassigned throughout these last few years, really. Because in the early 1900s, everyone knew what this word meant, and they knew who used it. Foreigners used this word to talk about us. The word is massa. Massa. In civil law, it's a mass. At law, it's a mass. And then, of course, it has another meaning, an unwrought substance such as gold or silver, before it is wrought into cups or other articles, so you know it has to do with us. That's what they used to call us, massa. That's where the word massa came from, is foreigners and subjects speaking about us when they came to our land and saw that we, the people, the mass of the people, were the law and the government, and we ruled. They called it mob rule. These days they were calling it mob rule, but we hereby state on the public record that we are massa. Another fact, and this is with regard to fiduciary money and those that were previously pretending to be the state. I was looking here at the U.S. Trademark, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, quote unquote. I was looking through some of the things that they have on the website, again, in my studies, and came up and saw this. It says, it is well settled that third-party foreign and state registrations are not evidence of actual use of a mark and thus are immaterial to the issues of likely confusion, likely dilution, and false suggestion of a connection. What does that mean? That means that any logos, any trademarks, any fiduciary money any of that was issued by any foreign or supposedly registered or issued by a foreigners or any foreign third parties is not evidence of actual use of a mark. Thus, is immaterial and cannot be confused with the real. Okay? So our printing of fiduciary money for us to use in liquidation processes is absolutely what we should be doing, and no third-party foreign or state quote-unquote registration is evidence of that they own it, in other words. Okay? And this is, again, on the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office website. So they knew that anything coming through there, if it's not done by the Moors, then it's not properly registered. When we put something on the public record, it is properly registered. Okay, just wanted to point that out. And here's the laws that have gone forth with regard to that, and the codes that you can look at that further support this particular statement. I found it interesting. They have one called Société Anonyme Marne et Champagne versus Myers, which sounds something like something one of the Moors would have done. So with this being stated here, it says, as such, they should be stricken. As such, they should be stricken. In other words, if a third-party foreign or state is claiming that they registered something, and again, that, you know, a third-party foreign corporation they fall under this particular statement, then they don't have a logo. They don't have anything that we cannot use. Okay, so anything that they were claiming is not theirs, it's ours. And again, U.S. Trademark and Patent, this would have been even before a lien was filed, that we can use whatever we choose to use. However, now that a lien is filed and that we're the fiduciaries, we really have proof and fair use of all. Okay. Now, we had spoken briefly about, and this is the question that Moors have been asking, about, yes, Islam Empress, she put in the chat in Hebrew, masa meant master. Yes, it does. It means that in English too. Masa means master in English. So, but now let's go back again to with regard to what Moors have been wanting to know. How do we go? Yes, Justice Malik says MasterCard. That's good. It's true. That logo belongs to the Moors too, by the way. So we can put that on our merchant cards. That one and the Visa logo, those all belong to the Moors because they went through the Trademark and Patent Office, and they were issued by a foreign, they were issued by some foreign something that's been liened. So that belongs to us as well. But Moors have been wondering, how are we going to get into the domiciles and get the conveyances and things like that? Well, Moors, now that we have issued from our courts the proper justice and judgments with regard to properties, domiciles, all of that, now what do we have to do? We've issued constitutions and county charters. And in issuing the constitutions and county charters, it is our duty as fiduciaries now to put on our sheriff garb, uniforms, and notify the former custodians previously in the office of sheriff that we are doing the duties now. Notify, 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 notify. So this in about maybe in a few days, actually, I will be ordering a uniform, a sheriff uniform. And then I'm going to continue, and we're notifying on the public record right now all former custodians previously in the office of sheriff. You are hereby removed and resigned in the way that we intend for that word to mean. And we will be doing the duties. Now, does that mean go out next week and do them? Not necessarily. We want to continue our studies on that unless you've been a sheriff before. For the Moors who have worked in quote-unquote law enforcement, we want to look at the sheriff manuals and see how things are done and then gather our documentation. So we know what we have to have. Remember, Moors, we've issued writs of possession. We have our liens properly recorded on the public record. We've notified. What else? We've done the court actions. We have terminated all corporate contracts, and I would suggest before you do anything else, Moors, before each demonstration, because I do it also, before each demonstration, just put something out on the public record. I usually do it by way of social media, or I will just even state it in my spirit that I hereby terminate all presumed corporate contracts, because that's just something ongoing that I do regularly. If at this point it's not necessary for me to do it anymore, because I can feel that in my spirit. But when I felt the need to do it, I did it previously. And I've mentioned that to you before, just to ensure that in the spirit realm and in this realm, that we keep our, keep the law before us in it, and where jurisdiction is concerned. Because we're not co-debtors with them. We have to ensure that we keep that on the public record as well. We're not co-debtors. And that's what the termination of corporate contracts is all about, is ensuring that any presumed contracts with the dead are not there, have been properly rebutted. Okay. It's important that that be ongoing with you until you get that something in your spirit that says, okay, there is no way that I'm ever going to recontract at all, ever. And the ancestors will let you know when you feel that something that says, okay, I don't have to keep doing that. Okay? Because it is never our intention to contract as we're doing our demonstrations and things, because we are looking at the demonstrations and we demonstrate, and then we say, okay, let's go back and look and see what happened in this demonstration and why we got the positive, awesome outcome, or what can we do to improve that demonstration. Then we say, okay, let me, in demonstrating, I may have said something that that may have given the impression that I was contracting, I want to make sure that I correct that in my spirit. So then I'll say, okay, I just want to ensure that all, I hereby terminate all presumed corporate contracts. And that's that's energy clearing for me. That's energy clearing. And, now that everything is where it is and where it should be in terms of our estate, I don't feel the need to do that anymore. Because I know that that the jurisdiction on the earth is what it should be for us. All we have to do is continue being ourselves. I know that for sure, because of how far we've come in terms of the fiat, getting rid of that, nationalizing all of our resources, not having corporate contracts and all of that. I feel comfortable in my spirit. I would say that it was a good exercise for me to do when we first started the termination of corporate contracts, to say that in my spirit. I hereby terminate all presumed dead United States corporation company contracts, because now we have corporate contracts, but they are our own state. That's the Pauline, Ritchie, and all capital letters. That's a corporate agreement between a sovereign and an instrument. That's an instrument that I created. Okay. So we don't terminate that contract. We're keeping that one. With that being said, again, now that we've placed our state constitutions on the public record and county charters on the public record, we already are our own sheriffs and United States Marshals for our ancient county lands. So whatever it is that the actors were saying, this is the counties, whatever it is that counties have, we have it now. Or counties had, we have it now. They were just modeling for us and acting for us so that we could see that, yes, the county court, that's our court. Sheriffs, we're the sheriffs. All of that. Think on that as fiduciaries who are currently liquidating assets for our estate. Okay, and we will discuss this more in the coming day cycles. So, our duties can be done as fiduciaries, as sheriffs, as marshals, as police, as law, as judges, as justices, whichever we choose to do and to be on the land, we can do and be. Okay, with proper study, and then we have to get into again the proper training, quote unquote, and that's another reason why we're taking it a step at a time with regard to domiciles and conveyances and things like that, because we want to ensure that we are properly trained in all that needs to be done, and that won't take long. It won't take long at all. But it still has to be done. And we started our law enforcement training. If you go back, I'm trying to think, let me see, let me go back and see. We did law enforcement training. Let me see if I can pull up that video. And I'll put the link to our law enforcement video in the chat because it was actually a really good meeting. We had at that time our Aboriginal Marshal Granter Belton. We had him to come and say some things. We had quite a few attendees who had questions about our law enforcement process. And that was just an introduction and a start. So the things that we've been doing from day one have been introducing ourselves as the law on the land, and going through our testing so that we know who we are and what we're doing. And, you know, we are also Homeland Security and all of that. We're all of that. So I will put yes, we had an Indigenous Law Enforcement Summit on January the 21st, 1441, which was 2021 on the Greco-Roman calendar. Here we go. Yes, Justice Malik, it is customs and usage for us to, we've always been the law on the land. That's customs and usage. And, you know, we didn't get ourselves into this, into what we just came out of. That was a process to even go into that. And it's now we're out of it, and we're taking our processes step by step by step. And it's also, you know, more, we're going to do the things that we do safely. And so far, so good with that. Customs and usage says that the Moors, and you can look at the Convention at Algeciras, 1906, where it specifically states that all law enforcement must be under the Moors. And it specifically says Moorish leadership, Moorish government. Okay? Convention at Algeciras, 1906 says that. And so we know that as we move forward, this transition, I'm not sure, well, you all may or may not have heard that a transition of this magnitude takes approximately 7 years. We're already 3.5 years in, or more, actually. We're more than 3.5 years in to this great transition. So we're going to continue to move forward with regard to being the law on the land, because we actually have to manifest that. We're the police, the sheriff, we're the military, we're the judges, we're the courts, we're the justices, we're the banks, we're all of that. So all of that will manifest and is continuing to manifest. Just one moment. And we're going to continue manifesting in that manner. We have nothing to fear at all, Moors. We have everything that we say and everything that we do. We have the protection, the ancient protection, especially on our own land. Okay, so so we're going to keep moving forward. Because again, with us being our own sheriffs and us being our own law enforcement, us being our own law enforcement, there is no stopping us from, when it comes to property, when it comes to conveyances and things like that. We just have to take everything back, okay? And, that's how it's done on our own land. That's why the constitutions were so important, okay? And with that being said, I'm just laughing at the foreign matter that has manifested in the chat. I like that our ego doesn't get in the way to where we feel like we have to prove anything, because that's really what that's about, is trying to bait someone to jump out there and try and prove something. We already proved everything at birth. So we're not taken by that. So as we continue to move forward, we're going to, all we're doing, Moors, is just saying, hey, former custodians, we got this. And we're doing that all the way across the board, all the way across the board. And they're aware that that is what is happening, So I'm excited for us. We're going to move safely. We have all of the help and the assistance, not help, but the assistance that we need. Everything is already done. All we have to do is look at it and then demonstrate it. And we're looking forward to demonstrating our share of responsibilities and all of that. We're going to take about probably the next 30 to 60 days to notify and to get ourselves ready for sheriff duties. We've already done postmaster duties, but we even have to enhance that as well, because there's guidance there's regulation that's needed. The post offices need regulation, so we're going to be focused on that as well. The banks need regulation, so we're already focused on regulating them, and our regulations are being received as they should. But you can see that. I mean, everyone can see that. I want to show you something. As you know, we introduced the fiduciary money and how to do it, and our printing came up beautifully. I want to show you, let's see, our latest thing that we did with the fiduciary money, because we went onto the internet and just kind of read some of the comments under the video. And we saw several Moors put under the video that it would be good if the numbers were read on the fiduciary money. And another Moor said to put a red line, just take a red something, maybe a marker or something, and just put a red line down on I think he said the left side of the fiduciary money, so that it is known that it's fiduciary money. So what we did was we took some fiduciary money and here, let me show you what we did. We made the numbers red. We made the numbers red on the front, and then on the back, we put "In God We Trust" in gold. And that way you will know the difference between fiduciary money and just one moment. That one is the right one. This is the right one. Yeah. And that way, and we'll be doing that across the board, along the way with our fiduciary money as we bring it in to our inventory. We'll be doing that on several of them. We won't do every single one like that, but on the ones that we use the most, we will do something. Or you can just take a marker and put a red line on the left-hand side, down the left-hand side, just so that it is known that that's fiduciary money. So are there any questions or comments about that? Because I want to introduce something that where all of this is leading to. And I will go ahead and put the meeting in okay, there. And you can unmute yourselves as you see it. Islam Empress.
Islam. So will you have any of the fiduciary money under the video with the red lettering?
That was going to be my next question. Yes.
I could.
Sorry, no.
Yeah, I could put that up.
The templates, because we don't have access. All of us don't have access to the, the fiduciary money or the Federal Reserve notes. I haven't seen one of them in I don't know how long, so I can't even tell you that. So, but anyway, so if you have templates like, so if you make templates like we did with the More Sovereign Delarium, we can all get it done quickly, because I'm pretty sure there's others out there not touching fiat.
Yeah, there are. Based on the comments under the videos and the emails and the texts and yes, there are lots who are not touching fiat. So yes, I will put these versions, the two that I've done, which I think is 150, under the video, and then as I do more of them, I'll put them out there. But I would encourage you to the way that I did it was I used the snipping tool. It's something called a snipping tool, and most computers have a snipping tool. Let me put that on the screen.
Yes, I am familiar with the snipping tool.
So, yeah, some may not be, so I want to make sure that, because there are some who are not as, they've admitted that they just don't care too much for computers, so I want to make sure that they know how to get it as well. So on your computer, just look for something called a snipping tool, and you can search right down in the corner. Put in snipping tool, and it will pop up, and you can select the note, and then when you select the note, you go to edit on the snipping tool, and then you can edit it in Paint 3D, and there you can go and make the numbers red. Okay, and that way you can do that however you choose to do it. Or you can, again, just take and put a red line on that. Now, let me say this about even the fiduciary money, about where all of this is going. When the ancestors gave us Delarium and said, go ahead and print that, that was a test. Yes, Delarium is real. Yes, we will use it. And we're going to continue. We've been using it, and we're going to continue to use it. They wanted to see how we would do that. Okay, how would we go about, And they wanted to know how many of us were willing to demonstrate that. Well, we did good on that. So then they said, okay, let's introduce fiduciary money and see what happens with that. And
can Angela Bay buy dentures with the new money? Can Angela Bay get some dentures with this new money?
They've seen
you need a set of teeth.
Just one moment. They have seen how we do with that, with fiduciary money. And now that, as you know, Morris, because our ancestors have a reason for everything they do.
Send Pauline your money.
They are
so
doing
she
the
can
same
pay off her
thing
mortgage.
with they're doing the same thing. Just one moment. The ancestors are, and now you all know when we start talking about that money, that's when you start hearing a whole bunch of la 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 la. They don't want that stuff to go away, but it's out of here. Done. So anyway, because we hadn't heard from, the poltergeist lady in a while. But anyway, with regard to the fiduciary money, it was preparing us for the gold and silver. Just to see, do we really know who we are? And can we demonstrate that? And will we demonstrate that? Well, yes. And there's a place for all three of those currencies. Those are real, that's real money because we say it is. We had to separate, and we do everything in threes. Our ancestors do everything in threes. So not the fiat, it's dollarium, it's fiduciary money, and then gold and silver. Those three. And, in that order, actually, as it's turning out, because we've not started minting and printing our own gold coin. And again, we did the study, and Empress Chitali brought it to our attention that if you have a gold or a silver round thing that you're calling a coin, if the original indigenous heirs did not craft that, then it's not a coin. It's a round. That's what they call it, round, like a round circle. They call it a round. It's not even money. It's not even a coin. Only sovereign governments can mint coins. Period. So we thank Empress Chitali for her research there, because people have been holding those things up, saying that this is real money. It is not. We are, yes, Empress, we are the de jure treasury. That's why everything. That's why dollarium is real money. That's why fiduciary money is real money, and that's why gold and silver that we create is real money. We are the de jure U.S. Treasury. Absolutely, yes. Always have been, always will be. Okay. So, I had a more, and I want to just, as a side note, well, we don't even know, Empress, we don't even know if that's real silver. They say it is, but they say a lot of stuff is real. When I know for real, they cannot dig in this land and get no real silver. I know they can't because it's not theirs. So, all of this is in preparation for, let me do my side note first. The side note is this, and this is for all Moors in general. All Moors in general. If you do documents, Moors, and you send your documents to me and you say, can you approve this? I'm not going to respond because I don't have the authority to approve your documents. You are sovereign. You approve your documents. You approve your own documents. You create your own. You're governing your estate. You are the authors, therefore you are the authority for your own documents through your own study. Because, see, a sovereign is a sovereign because their word is the law. So just please keep that in mind. I'm not being rude. I'm just letting you know that I'm not governing your estate. You're governing your estate. That is your wealth. And what do I look like trying to come and tell you what to do with your wealth? That's not even, that doesn't even make sense in terms of the definition of the word sovereign. Another little side note, there are people who, let me say this the right way. The people who come on these calls are precious to me. They are my heart. You all are my heart, and I know I'm yours. We are each other's hearts. We love each other very much. That does not mean, though, that there won't be one or two who come onto the calls looking to take advantage of Moors that come on these calls. And then they'll say, hey, I can help you with nationality for $300. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Your nationality is not for sale. And there's no study that you can't do. And the documents are under these videos for you to look at the documents and craft them and say, okay, I declare my nationality, not someone else. There have been one or two who would come on to these calls, and just because they say something every now and then or something like that, people think that, oh, they're, and then, listen, your nationality is not for sale. And if anyone says to you, I can help you with nationality for la fiat, no. If they really wanted to help you, they would help you without the fiat piece being in there. So please don't do it. And for those who do that, the one or two who may occasionally, and I'm not saying it's anybody on this call tonight, I'm just saying in general, for those who hear what we're saying or who come onto the call, don't do that. Everyone knows we're not about fiat. We burn it. So, and then some come and they say, well, I'll help you with that. And they'll help you initially for free, but then after a while they say, well, I am running low on ink. I am running low on this and that and this and that. But they volunteered to help you, when really you can do it yourself. Because it's by your study that you know who you are. Man knows not by being told. So I just wanted to put that out there that no, we do not support anyone selling nationality for fiat. We don't do it. We don't support that. We don't do it, and we don't support that action. We support all Moors. We love that nationality is going out everywhere. We love that. But the spirit of fiat behind that, we don't support that spirit. We do not. So with that being said, the reason that we're doing all of this is for this reason. Ancient Moorish Moroccan customs and usage for the sole purpose of advancing the empire are hereby proclaimed if this Congress agrees in the majority, or as we agree in the majority. Okay? So right now, it is our ancient customs and usage to be merchants. And as merchants, we protect the land and protect our property and so on and so forth. So again, that is where we're going with all of this. Will everybody be sheriffs on the land? You can be if you want to be. That's going to be over time, so nobody panic, please. And you won't panic because Moors are strong. We know what's going on here. Is we have control of the estate, and all we're doing is manifesting that for the purpose of merchant activities and just advancing the empire through merchant activities and through governing and through our own economic standing, etc. So I did a little research on mercantile and merchant actions and what they mean, what those words mean, as opposed, and not really as opposed to commerce, but in addition to commerce. Because when you look at the treaty talks about merchants and merchant things. Mercantile is an adjective. It is a merchant. It is pertaining to or connected with merchants or trade, related to trade and commerce or the buying and selling of goods, commercial of mercantilism. And then it says here, a mercantile agency is an establishment that gathers and provides for clients information about credit ratings, financial status, etc., on individuals and firms. And then mercantile paper. It is checks, promissory notes, bills of exchange, and other negotiable paper used in business. Okay? Mercantile paper, an example of mercantile paper would be a lien or a creditor's bill for possession or a bill for exchange or currency, merchant currency. Merchant cards are also a part of that because they are based on negotiable paper. And they are used in business, okay? So mercantile paper as opposed to private military script. This is the difference between what we use, which is dollarium, fiduciary money, gold and silver. That's mercantile instruments that are used, okay? Whereas and that's public. Mercantile paper is public, okay? Commercial paper is generally, you actually have to put the word private in front of that when you're talking about a dead corpse corporation. Mercantilism, the doctrine or policy, and this is important, this is why this stood out for me. Mercantilism is a noun, and we speak with nouns. The doctrine or policy that the economic interests of the nation as a whole are more important than those of individuals or parts of the nation. That a balance of exports over imports with a consequent accumulation of bullion is desirable, and that industry, agriculture, and commerce should be directed toward this objective. That is what all of this that we're doing is going. That's the direction. So if you want to know what our vision is and where we're going as a nation, we just read it. that the law, that the economic interests of the nation as a whole are more important than those of individuals or parts of the nation, that a balance of exports over imports, in other words, we produce more than we bring in, with a consequent accumulation of bullion. Bullion is gold and silver and platinum and other bullion, but mainly gold and silver. Industry, agriculture, and commerce are directed towards mercantilism. That's why we had to have our own money. That's why we had to go ahead and liquidate any bankrupt debt and entities so that we could have a fresh start, and it's not a start, it's a fresh continuation of mercantilism. Okay? I found some other things as I was looking through this. Mercaptain. And we know that M-E-R and M-U-R are the same word. Why? Because vowels are interchangeable when you're talking about Latin. And in our ancient English, vowels are interchangeable as well. Mercaptain. Mercury. When you talk about Mercury being in retrograde, whenever Mercury is in retrograde, then mercantilism takes on a different tone than if Mercury is not in retrograde. That's because Mercury is about mercantilism. Okay. Mercaptain. Here it says Latin. Just one moment. Latin captans. Past participle of captere. And captere means to take. Talking about possession here. To take or seize. Mercaptain. Okay? To take or to seize. And then they start talking about chemical compounds and sulfur and oxygen and all of that. So you already know that this is all about the Moors. When you start talking about elements, chemicals, land, natural things that are natural, natural substances, natural chemicals, gold, silver, etc., you're talking about things that have to do with us. Mercaptain, any of a class of chemical compounds analogous to the alcohols and characterized by the substitution of sulfur for oxygen in the OH radical, also called thiol. We've talked about sulfur and what it does. Sulfur, when it comes in contact with our ancient cells, it assists our cells in staying youthful. And I forget the word that we use, that, elastic, the elasticity is reduced. In other words, less wrinkles and things like that. So sulfur assists with that. That's why things like sulfur-8 hair grease helps with keeping our scalps healthy. And then shampoos with sulfur in them help keep our scalps and our hair and our skin healthy and shiny. And then lastly, it says Mercator's projection, a method of making maps in which the Earth's surface is shown as a rectangle with the meridians as parallel straight lines spaced at equal intervals and the parallels of latitude as parallel straight lines intersecting the meridians at right angles but spaced further apart at their distance from the equator increases. Areas on such maps become increasingly distorted towards the poles. There you're talking about parallel universes and distorted realities. And I threw that in there for those who study that sort of science. Ancient Moorish Ancient martial law, custom, and usage in support of merchant commerce and mercantilism explained. What we want to do, Morris, and this is something that we want to put on the public record today, if you all are agreeable to it. Let me see, there's a question in the chat that says, as a sovereign, can't I determine if a round of gold or silver is money or not? You can if you want to, and whoever acknowledges that as money, you can, as long as you have agreement with whoever you're going to use that with, that's money. You know, you can decide that coffee beans is money. You know, so yeah, you can. It is. Listen, that's if you can do it with rounds, you can do it with fiduciary money too. You can do it with whatever you want to do it with, because everything belongs to the state. We don't want to use debt, though. And the only problem I see with that, Justice Rahim, is that who is it that printed the round? Was it a debtor or a creditor that printed it? And that's why it's important for us to print it and then use it as money. See, I would not accept a round as money because the more it didn't come by our sovereign hand. I would not do that. I would accept delarium first and foremost, or fiduciary money, or gold and silver that the Moors pulled out of the ground. Because, see, their rounds, we don't even know if that's real gold, honestly. We don't know. And I'm leaning more towards it being a lab-created mixture. But who's to say? Until we actually physically go out and dig up the gold and put them side by side, you will know. Some gold, when it comes out of the ground, and even the ancient gold, is black. Black. I've seen gold sculptures and statues that are black on the outside, but if you shine them or put a certain chemical on that, it turns solid gold, and it's very beautiful. So we want to put martial law on the public record as being the law, but we want to explain it first. And the reason, again, is because of the fiduciary situation where we have to marshal the assets. Our sheriff duties, our marshal duties. That's what a United States Marshal, that's what they were supposed to do, is marshal the assets, collect the assets. Okay? We do it from, we can be a United States Marshal because we're the living United States, not the dead one. And we have, we are the states united. The Moorish nations and states are the states united. And so we have to marshal the assets because debtors can't do it. Okay? And so we want to explain martial law and the spelling of it because there are several different ways to spell the word martial. Again, we are at peace, we're not at war. And that's why I'm so secure and sure about all that we're doing, is we're not at war with anyone. We're not. There's no one to war with. That's number one, because there's us and there's some former custodians previously in the office of, and they're being removed. You know, so there's some subjects, some citizen subjects, and then there's the Moors, the law, the government. So one of the marshals means war. The other one is a peacetime fiduciary responsibility. So let's go ahead and look at that. Marshal, M-A-R-S-H-A-L, is a peaceful, financial, equitable law proclamation. We are not proclaiming martial, M-A-R-T-I-A-L, law, as we are not at war on our land. So this is martial law from the Black's Law Dictionary, and I put a red X through it because we're not at war. This is what the foreigners did when they first came here. This is the one they did, okay, or acted out, rather. Martial law exists when military authorities carry on government or exercise various degrees of control over civilians or civilian authorities in domestic territory. That means you're fighting against your own people. And that's not what we're doing. Martial law, a system of law obtaining only in time of actual war and growing out of the exigencies thereof, arbitrary in its character and depending only on the will of the commander of an army, which is established and administered in a place or district of hostile territory held in belligerent possession, or sometimes in places occupied or pervaded by insurgents or mobs, and which suspends all existing civil laws as well as the civil authority and the ordinary administration of justice. We're not doing any of this. We don't have a commander. We are all the commander. We're all the leaders. We are all the sovereigns. We're all in charge. Okay? And that's why you can't tell a sovereign what to do, because they're just as much in charge as you are. They determine what happens with them. You know, we determine what happens with us, each one of us. It says, see also military law. And then this martial law, which is built upon no settled principles, but is entirely arbitrary in its decisions, is in truth and reality no law, but something indulged rather than allowed as a law. That's why we don't do this one. Okay? It says, we don't have to read any further. Oh, well, let's read further because it mentions courts. The necessity of order and discipline in an army is the only thing which can give it countenance, and therefore it ought not to be permitted in time of peace, when the king's courts are open for all persons to receive justice according to the laws of the land. This, all that's saying is, when you have a just court, you don't need this type of martial law. You don't. Now let's look at martial spelled the way we spell it, M-A-R-S-H-A-L. It says in Old English law, the title borne by several officers of state and of the law, of whom the most important were the following. And they named some earls and things like that. It says, whose special authority was in the king's palace to hear causes between members of the household and punish faults committed within the verge. So they adopted this for the servants, basically. The marshal of the King's Bench prison, who had the custody of that jail. The marshal of the exchequer, who had the custody of the king's debtors. The marshal of the judge of assize, whose duty was to swear in the grand jury. And we know we don't swear, but you get the idea. In American law, an officer pertaining to the organization of the federal judicial system, whose duties are similar to those of a sheriff. He is to execute the process of the United States courts within the district for which he is appointed, etc. This is martial law. This is what the fiduciaries are doing. This is why the sheriff uniform, because we are fiduciaries. And the sheriff uniform, is also something that is being used in a fiduciary capacity because they don't own it. We do. And all we're doing is the same thing they did back in the day. except we're doing it for peace and not for war, in terms of looking very similar, okay, looking similar, but we're allodial and sovereign. How is that going to manifest? You already know that any time we do something peacefully, the ancestors bliss it, and they manifest, and we see what we've been waiting to see. So everyone's going to be properly trained and all of that, so there's no worries. Don't let the programming scare you with regard to that. And I'm sending out the energy that we all get it, and that this is a peacetime move, so that Moors can be ushered back in to the domiciles and the things that rightfully belong to us. That's what this is all about. Okay? So it says in some states, this is the name of an officer of police in a city or borough having powers and duties corresponding generally to those of a constable or sheriff. And then Marshal of the Queen's Bench, an officer who had the custody of the Queen's Bench prison. Marshalling, this is good, arranging, ranking, or disposing in order. That's what we're doing. That is our fiduciary duty, particularly in the case of a group or series of conflicting claims or interests, arranging them in such an order. Wait a minute. Just one moment. Arranging them in such an order of sequence, or so directing the manner of their satisfaction as shall secure justice to all persons concerned and the largest possible measure of satisfaction to each. The largest possible measure of satisfaction to each. So, marshaling assets. This is what the fiduciary, this is what we're doing. In equity, not equality, but equity. That means each according to their status, each according to the law. In equity, the arranging or ranking of assets in the due order of administration. That means heirs first, because no one else is secure until the heirs are secure. And now that we're secure, we have to manifest the security further, okay? Because we're secure. We're not worried about that, but we have to manifest that. And we don't have to, we choose to. Such an arrangement of the different funds under administration, that's our fiduciary duty, as shall enable all the parties having equities therein to receive their due proportions, notwithstanding any intervening interest, liens, or other claims of particular persons to prior satisfaction out of a portion of these funds. There it is on the record what we're doing. There it is right there. And this is from Black's Law 4th edition. We are marshaling assets. That is the law. How we choose to do that is up to us. We are the fiduciaries. We are wise fiduciaries, so we're going to look again at the sheriff's manual on proper execution of the law and how to serve the documents, and which we've been doing that all along anyway. When you send something in the mail, you're serving it. When you hand deliver, you're serving it. Okay? They and many Moors have been through the experience of dealing with fake sheriffs. So when the prophet said, man knows not by being told, we get it. We get it. We've been through the arrest training, the POW training. We've been through all of that. That's what This is what it was for, to show us how to do it. And then we say, okay, we got it. Let's get what we need to get in terms of our uniforms and things, and let's notify, and use our courts, and then execute. That is what this is all about, using our courts and then sending it to the lower courts to notify. And then, there's several different ways that we can go about doing this. We can have the lower courts to send a sheriff that we go with them and we say, okay, let's look and see what you're doing here. And it's called that's called joint forces things. We don't need to do that because enough of us have been evicted to know the process. So we know the process. We know how to do it. We know how to arrest folk because enough of us have been arrested. So, we're going to move. We're going to take it line upon line and precept upon precept so that the Moors get back everything and then some, according to martial law. And again, we put these things on the public record. This today will serve as notification, first and foremost. We've been notifying all along and then putting it on the public record so that those that are the former custodians out there can know that, okay, this is where they are in everything that they're doing. So let's prepare this and this and get ready for this and this and this. Let's get the Space Force ready. Let's get this ready. Let's get that ready. And then here we come. Okay. So Islam, Empress.
So when you mention arrests and such, as far as detaining those who try to usurp our authority, that would require some type of cell of some kind. So we would have to have gotten, already access and authority over those facilities.
We already have authority over those facilities. We take it a step at a time. And again, we're going to be putting our steps that we do on the public record. Now, I will say this. There are Moors who are sheriffs that stand at the ready to do this already.
Islam, that's facts.
We all know them. We've seen them. We know them. They're already putting them in place. I know they put them in place here. If you look at your sheriff, the sheriff's department, and we can call them that because again, we put the Constitution on the public record. That's ours, and they put Moors in place at the head of that already. We just needed to let them know that, okay, this is where we are. We have and again, Moors, the Constitution and the county charters are important. The ones that are doing that, our sheriffs, the Moorish-led sheriffs, need copies of those. Okay, and actually originals where your everything is, they need a wet ink autograph, even for the documents that you send, and then a properly executed lien, a properly executed, everything that's properly executed, they need that. And again, you can look in the sheriff's manual for a creditor's bill of possession, a creditor's bill for possession. Look that up too, so that you can see. It's documentation. That's all it is documentation and notification, and then you send the word. Okay. Again, Moors have already been put in place to do this, but we, at any given moment, I'm prepared to put on a sheriff uniform and assist them. And not really assist, but tell them this is where this goes. This is where that goes. So whenever I go to deliver documents to them, I'm going to have my uniform on. Same thing with the police. The police uniforms, because we are the head of that. When you go to deliver documents to them, you just go and deliver the document, and you can wear a judge's robe or you can wear a police uniform. You can, however you want to do it, as long as you've been notifying the whole time of what's going on and what you're doing. Because again, Moors, we're protected persons. We have protected persons. Let me make sure I put that on there properly. We have protected persons. And not only that, but those that were doing business previously, not previously, those that are police now on our land, now that we put the Constitution and the charters on the public record, those that are police on the land now are under our authority. Okay, already. And our documentation and the competence thereof and our peacefulness, all we do is notify and say, hey, go do this and go do that. We're governing now. Our courts are speaking now. So all that's on our land now is resources. And then we just look at what's been done previously in the past, and we speak to it by affidavit. When you talk about sending a sheriff out to empty a property, to make sure that a property is empty, is not empty, but let me see, I want to say empty, but that there are no unlawful occupiers in the property. Just knowing how to say that. Read a sheriff's manual and look at what they say about that, and then speak to that. Knowing that all capitalism is in our own hands. We are the state, we are the government, we are the law. All of those precepts we know. Okay? With regard to police, and I'm calling them police because we've put a constitution and a charter on the public record, and they work for us. And when they work for us, they are police. When they were being corporate corpses, okay, they were not police. They were policy enforcers, and not even that. They were criminals. They were criminals. They were criminals until we decided that, okay, let's lean the criminals, let's decapitate all corpses and all fraud, let's clean up the land. And cleaning up the land is, that was our job. That is our job, and we are continuing to do that, so that this beautiful temple that we call Morocco, ancient Morocco, among other beautiful appellations that we call our land, can be what our ancestors meant for it to be. Okay? And I will say this about even sheriffs. Sheriffs. We call them sheriffs once we put the Constitution and the charters on the public record. They become sheriffs then under our authority, though. Okay, and when sheriffs go and do the bidding that we have instructed them to do, they are peace officers at the same time. And we won't. Let's let that unfold as we go. We're not in any type of a fix where we feel like we have to hurry and do. We're going to take it a step at a time. We already have everything done in terms of the documentation, the paperwork, the lien process and the affidavits, the court actions and all of that. That was the part that we needed to put in place. And now that that's in place, all we have to do is send the word, and the resources will respond and do as commanded. So that's where we are in terms of our land, and all that we're doing is that's how we get into the domiciles and the conveyances and all that we're doing. But we have to know the process. We should know the process. We must know the process. So it's important that we know the processes. Just one moment. Just one moment. Okay. There was a lot of noise coming from that particular line. So, Morris, can we take a vote that we are, and this will be the last item on our Congressional Assembly agenda for today, is if you are agreeable to do so, can we go ahead and vote to implement martial law on our land where fiduciary duties are concerned? We've essentially done it in terms of the fiduciary duties, but we want to just put the vote on the public record. That way the people have spoken with regard to martial law, that we are declaring and proclaiming martial law on the land, MARSHAL, the peaceful financial martial law. Is everyone okay with that? If you are okay, if you could, *6, if you agree to implement martial law.
Islam, Angelica, Yvette, Dobbs Bay, Swampomec, Mohawk, and Manhattan territories. Yay.
Islam, Kahusia, Jehuti, Ba'in, Will.I.am, Shu, Il, Manhattan territory. Yay.
Islam, Karima, Divanisha, LaShawnell Bay, Virginia territory. Yay.
Islam, A.G. Nabi, Chandra Bay, Mahat El, Texas territory. Yay.
Thank you, Islam.
Islam, Michael DeWall, Making Bay, Mississippi territory.
Islam, Akil Kanemi, Easley L.
Brother Smith Bay, Pennsylvania territory. Yay.
Islam is Cape Tumai L and Pennsylvania territory. Yay.
Justice Akil, we did not get your vote, and Justice let's see, Justice Akil.
Okay. Akil Kanemi, Easley L, Philadelphia territory. Yay.
Islam.
Islam, Rahim Allah Bay, Jamaica, New York territory. Yay.
Islam.
Carolyn the Wiggins, Eel, Alabama territory. Yay.
Islam. Please don't inbox me your vote. Your vote needs to go on the public record, please. Thank you.
Islam, Musa Jubei, Memphis, Tennessee territory. Yay.
Islam.
Katali Badzilpa L, Khalifa territory. Yay.
Islam.
Islam. Islam.
Islam.
Marquel Bay, VA territory.
Is that a yay or nay? Yes, Justice Marquel.
Noble Marquel, yay.
Islam.
Islam.
Islam, Holy Spirit, Bay, Minnesota territory, yay.
Islam.
Islam. Islam.
Islam, nobility. Go ahead. Yes. Go ahead.
William Smith Bay, Mississippi Territory, yay.
Islam.
Islam. Malik Akil Bay, Illinois Territory, yay.
Islam.
Islam.
Yes. Islam.
Michael Dumwameking Bay, Mississippi Territory, yay.
Islam.
Islam. Wainan Prince Bay, Kenaland, yay.
Islam.
Islam. Veronica Ronnie Lake, Territory, Ohio, yay.
Islam.
Alabama Territory, yay.
Islam. And I am getting the votes
Islam.
in the chat. Islam in votes.
Justice Cynthia Ann Bay, yay.
Islam.
That's Khalifa territory.
Islam. Okay. Are there any other votes? One of the votes came by way of inbox. If you could please put the vote on the public record. Islam. Okay, I believe, are there any opposed votes? Okay, Islam. We do have a unanimous vote. We are exercising and implementing and activating martial law on our lands. We will be marshaling assets from this point forward and actually nunc-pro-tunc in each and all capacities. So we will be putting this out, this particular vote on the public record this evening, and letting everyone know also by proclamation that we have implemented and activated and are now activating and implementing martial law. So peaceful martial law at that. So with that being said, is there anything further from this sovereign and holy Congress? Any questions, comments, wisdom, etc.?
Islam?
Islam.
Yes, I have one question regarding the fiduciary money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I accidentally hit my mute. When printing the fiduciary money, how do we get the size correct? To be exact as the other, or does it have to be?
It should be exact.
I printed some and it came out a little small, but maybe I have to make some adjustments.
Yeah, you just, yeah.
Islam.
The measurements on it is 6 inches by 2.34 or something like that. The measurements on it, and you can Google the measurements of it.
Islam.
Islam. Are there any other questions, comments, wisdom, etc.? Islam. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all that you are doing for our nation. This is much needed. We must continue governing. Everything is in our favor. You know, we've worked really hard the last few years to get to where we are now, where all we have to do now is just activate the, you know, and everything is already in our possession. We just have to get it, access it. And we want to do that in the most efficient and safe and peaceful way. And it will be peaceful, that's for sure. We're going to see to it that each and everything that we do remains peaceful. So far, so good. We've had great practice on that. And more is just a matter of time now. I'm looking forward to Moore's getting into the domiciles on just a regular, everyday basis. I'm looking forward to that because we as a nation deserve that. That I know for sure because we've worked hard. We've gotten our spiritual lives in order. We're looking and we are actually being the law on the land. And we're going to continue cleansing and clearing spiritually and implementing the law and staying connected to that which is within us, our ancient ancestral energies. And for that, we're grateful. With that being said, peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs.
Grand rising.
Peace and grand rising. Islam.
Yeah, peace and grand rising.
Grand rising. Islam.
Peace and grand rising.
Thank you. Grand rising. Islam.
Islam.
Peace and
Islam.
everyone.
Grand rising. Islam.
Thank you for everything.
Peace and grand rising.
Islam. You're welcome.